Okay, so in this PowerPoint, you can look through, you can read along. The couple things that we need to talk about with visual consistency at this point, and on the previous page, or on Blackboard, I have a lot of great shorthand rules that you can read through, just kind of think about and try to implement. I know obviously like interaction, we're not doing a lot of that at this moment. The most we're doing with that is like our navigation. But it's all about keeping elements, design, content, interaction consistent, and why that's a good idea. So in the PowerPoint, I'm just going to go through quickly like a few rules to think about to start with. Font families, limiting yourself to 2, maybe 3. I would say at this point, you guys should be just kind of using 2 at the most. Color schemes, repeating them, repeating key colors, keeping the color scheme consistent on each page. Sometimes people think it's fun to switch your color schemes completely from one page to the next, but it's actually confusing. Layout should be all kind of consistent throughout the page, name, logo, and repeat it on all pages. Navigation always stays the same. Do not remove any links from the navigation bar. They should always be the same. You want people to think as little as possible. Okay, that rule of like the web is like, don't make me think. So navigation should feel natural. Okay, even though you may be on a page, like you're on the home page, so why does there need to be a link there for it? Because if there's not, it's confusion and people might not know where they are. And can repeating design features, such as like if you're adding like a horizontal rule, you should do it to all pages. Or a border or anything like that. Design principles for visual consistency, to think about contrast, using lights and darks, proximity, so your spacing, the alignment, is it left aligned, right aligned, justified, or center aligned, hopefully not center aligned, and repetition of design elements. Those things we can think about pretty easily at this point. So contrast on a page, if we look at this like older page here, as they're set off against each other in a pattern that allows the eye to explore the different features, draw conclusions, or simply appreciate the pattern. So the pattern could be just purely decorative, but in this site, they're using it in the beer jet site to highlight in the beer. Obviously, they're picking this color from that. And it's moving your eye around the page, and they're implementing it in the navigation. So everything's just reinforcing the idea of going back to the beer, also moving your eye around the page. So they're using it, again, as a strong design principle, and it's not only just a decorative idea. Okay, and the contrast, the rest of the page is kind of grayish. Okay, so that really highlights it. Design tips for visual consistency. Okay, again, proximity applies a relationship between features on a page. So a caption or a subtitle needs to be placed close enough to a photograph or a passage, say like a paragraph, so that the viewer can associate those two elements. We see that keyed up right here on this really busy page. Again, like a New York Times kind of page. This is a Taxi. It's a website for creative networking. But here we have a lot of images on a page, lots of different styles, and how their captions or their subheadings are associated with those images. Okay, makes you think about like, oh yeah, this is going to that. Front seat, this is talking about this guy here, and then there's another subheading. Also, even with this page here, it's very much like a newspaper kind of layout, but those things work for a reason, and they grab us. Oh, here's the daily news. I know that this is close enough to here that I can go through all these stories, all these links here, and figure out what's going on today. Okay, what's going on over here? Okay, so there's a different kind of set of hierarchy created by using the subheadings and the captions to work your eye through. And the cool thing about this site, yeah, it's really just kind of two fonts, but it's using a lot of contrast as well. Strong blacks and whites with the images keyed up with some yellow. You see that popping in around here, and also in here. So really kind of elegant site that's really tricky to do with that much information. Alignment or misalignment, so you could kind of use misalignment against kind of breaking the rules. But using that to vertically or horizontally on a page is also a natural part of the way we look at visual things. Okay, so the alignment here is all left aligned. Okay, it's all stacking one on another. But there is some center alignment here as well. So it kind of switches. It goes from the heading. The H1 goes from center aligned, and then it goes to a left aligned. So it kind of breaks into the content. Content's all left aligned, which looks really nice, all the paragraphs. Okay, so they're using that to organize the page and to create hierarchy. Also in this one, you could think of contrast to proximity. We know that these subheadings working with one another. Repetition, you can repeat certain design elements appropriately to make a point or to maintain consistency across the many web pages of a single site. Okay, so this is actually a magazine spread, but you can do the same thing in a web page. Here we have all these lines, these graphic elements popping up over here. Also the boldness of some of the text being very dark, again, repeating. So, if you were going to do this kind of little line thing in your splash page, continue it throughout the entire site. Not every page has to be as bold as this, but you're just reinforcing the idea. And we can see this, where else do they do this? They do it here for sure, using the black and white, repeating design elements. Here's a good one. Instead of changing font family, like where you're you can't ever make a decision, maybe just stick with one. It's hard to argue with just one. But you can try altering the spacing between the letters in a heading or title to create contrast. Scale, being bold, changing the capitalization, altering the weight. All those things can be used to stick with one font, but make it appear as if there's many things, many fonts, not many, but more than one. Okay, so making different design choices about maybe how a paragraph appears. It's the same font, but the spacing is increased. It's a different weight. Maybe it's a different color. Okay, and your eye will work through it. This is a really beautiful idea of that, just using one font to really kind of get a lot of mileage out of that one font. So that could be something you could try as well. Here we have on the bottom one, really kind of funny one. And it is interesting to look at. It looks like it's from 82 or, just kidding, 96 or 7. But it's from 2014. And you can see on this page just a lot of things that handled really poorly. And it's not to make fun of, but just to point out how confusing it can be to look at, what do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 different fonts in here. There's very little hierarchy. It's kind of hard to know what to look at. My eye immediately kind of goes to, I kind of look at that, but for some reason this really pops out at me. Basically, this is hard to read. Fine scale miniatures. Why is there a wolf howling at the moon there? I don't know. You're talking about miniatures. This might seem more appropriate. Really no design repetition, sort of. It's just a mess. But this is kind of what can happen when none of those rules are applied, or maybe too many. It's like kind of hard to say what they are trying to do. But it's really a mess. And I just point this out to kind of look so you can see like what happens when those things aren't considered. And it really seems like that here. So again, it's not to make fun of Blue Moon Manufacturing, but to kind of show you what not to do. All right, thanks.